From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell and welcome to Stumped. I'm joined from the ABC by Jim Maxwell, who's in Sydney, and Prakash Wakankar is in Pune for Akashvani. Now, the Women's World Cup is in full swing with matches already having taken place across India and Sri Lanka. And Prakash, you have been in Mumbai. You were there when India and Pakistan were playing each other in Colombo. So we sent you out to try and find somewhere to watch the match. And I'm intrigued, was it easy or hard to find somewhere, where the match was being watched with real fervour?
Well, to be honest, Alison, the normal places where one would go, right? The Cricket Club of India, the Bombay Gymkhana, for example, or the Yacht Club, or one of the other pubs around the Wankhede Stadium. They weren't. They were showing games, but these sports bars which have these multiple screens. Many places we heard they were showing it just on a normal television, not on the big screen. So we found this place where they were showing it actually on two large screens, and it was absolutely jam packed. But there were people who had just come there to have a meal, have a few drinks, hang out with friends. And I think what was surprising to me was the fact that people knew of the tournament, people knew about the game, but there wasn't an awful lot of interest. And I think that's got to do in part with just too much cricket. I think a lot of people, jingoistic or otherwise, have had enough of India Pakistan cricket. Yes, we had three games in that Asia Cup and everything that went around it. And I think that's why we found that people were not really watching it. I think people are happy to just get scores. I suspect the India South Africa, India England games will have a lot more interest because I think people have almost decided that when India play Pakistan in World Cups, the result is almost a foregone conclusion. It's what, 12-0 for the women now. And one probably thinks because of the lack of competitive cricket, that may be one of the reasons, while of course extreme views prevail. And that has been a very touchy subject. We won't delve into that too much, but it's been an issue since the time those events occurred a few months ago.
Of the match, then you alluded to then India's dominance when they did win by 88 runs. Wasn't quite as straightforward as that.
No, I think both the games that India have won, they have had some early jitters. The top order hasn't really fired. It took Deepti to do a special innings with the bat in Guwahati. It was similar with them here in Colombo when they played against Pakistan.
Jim, for Pakistan, I mean, they haven't had a great start to the tournament. They lost to Bangladesh by 7 wickets and then defeated by India and now Australia as well, albeit giving the defending champions a little bit of a scare. But why do you think Pakistan have looked almost lost this tournament so far?
It seems to be contagious in Pakistan at the moment. The men are very mediocre and they don't seem to have a settled, balanced side, struggling to make runs. And the women, I haven't seen much of them play so far other than the Australian game. They look a bit brittle, really, despite the fact that they probably had their best chance overnight of beating Australia. The result underlined Australia's extraordinary resilience and depth, didn't it? The Pakistan spinners bowled very, very well. But, when you got someone coming in 10 or 11 and making 50 to help out the opener, that does make a little bit of difference. But to be honest, Pakistan's batting's not on the planet against the better sides, I don't think. They look very, very ordinary with the bat, other than one or two players. But I think that's going to be their challenge against the better teams.
Yeah, just to flesh out what you're saying there, the Aussies were 76 for 7, batting first on Wednesday before coming back to beat Pakistan. You mentioned Alana King, who came out to join Beth Mooney, hitting a maiden ODI 50. But just a word on Beth Mooney's century, because, what an innings for her. She was drenched in sweat by the end of it. And in that situation, it just showed to me an innings of absolute determination and class to get her team up to what was then a defendable total.
She's in a great groove. Her driving through cover down the ground was exceptional. She waited on a slow pitch for the ball and she played in another place. The rest of them didn't get going at all until Alana King came to the crease. So, yeah, she's been in hot form throughout the year. She is definitely one of the better players in that side. But I just keep looking at them and having games like that, and I think they're going to get knocked over by someone, aren't they? Well, they may not. If you don't get them early, they'll just keep improving, probably. And that's the way it looked to me when I compared Mooney to the rest of the batting lineup, which had a very off day.
If that's Australia's worst game, then yeah, look out everybody else, because they've got it out of the way now and they still managed to win. Prakash, what about South Africa? Because they managed to bounce back from the heavy defeats to England. They beat New Zealand by 6 wickets, and we saw Tasmin Brits make 101, her 4th ODI century in 5 innings, and it's her 5th this year as well. She is fast becoming a player to watch.
Well, I think in many ways, this game between India and South Africa has the top two century makers this year. 5 for Brits, 4 for Smriti Mandana, who hasn't got a big score so far. So that's going to, I think, set it up. All reports seem to suggest that the Vizag pitch will have runs in it. It's certainly the way it played during the IPL and the other games that we've seen in the first class tournament. So whether not playing spoil sport, we should get a good heavy run scoring game. But about England, Alison, they played 2 and they won 2, but Bangladesh did give them a real scare, didn't they? I mean, if at all there was an opportunity, I think it was that whole story around the Heather Knight catch, and Heather was the one, like Beth Mooney, who steered England out of trouble. But otherwise, it just shows that on these slow, low turning pitches, sometimes the best struggle, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, Heather Knight could have been given out 3 times. Well, she was given out 3 times, wasn't she? 3 times decisions were overturned in her favour. First of all, I think to point out just what an improved side Bangladesh are, and we featured on Stumped a while back, didn't we? The investment and planning that has gone into the women's game. So, and this is a team only at their 2nd ever World Cup. And they had England 78 for 5, chasing 179. So this was England's big wobble match. But yep, like the Aussies, they did manage to come through. And I think it shows how much England do still need their former captain. And Heather Knight, who's been out, for a long time, long road back from a hamstring injury, could have been out, those 3 times. None of them found it an easy pitch. It turned the most out of any match of the World Cup so far. And I read that it was, in that match, the most deliveries of spin were bowled out of any World Cup in history. And spin has historically been a real Achilles heel for England, although Heather Knight is one player that does cope with spin and deals with it very well. Even by her standards, that was an innings of absolute grind, to get England up to where they needed to be. And on another day, well, that could have been a very different story for England, but for the exploits of Heather Knight. Prakash, what did you think of the umpiring, I guess, controversies, you might say, in that match? Certainly caused a fair amount of debate around the catches.
Yeah, well, I was actually watching that game, Alison, and right from the toss, there was a little bit of a mini controversy around the toss as well, in terms of whether it was called heads or tails. But once that, I don't think that created much of a problem. It brought back momentarily the memories of the 2011 World Cup final between India and Sri Lanka, the men's game, where the toss had to be redone. But on the field, it was extraordinary, wasn't it? I mean, to the naked eye, and at least my personal opinion, which counts for absolutely nothing, was that was a clean catch, the one that Heather played the ball a little bit in the air at extra cover, and a fielder diving forward took it. But if I look at what was said even on TMS, I think it was Alex Hartley on TMS, who said it looked like she had her fingers below the ball, but the ball did touch the ground. Make what you will of that comment. But if that was the level of confusion in the third umpire's mind, then, benefit of the doubt. And that's how Heather Knight got away. But these are all part of the game. I mean, we can talk about them. We can, analyze them to death. But the fact of the matter is England showed the resilience. If it wasn't Heather, maybe someone else would have. They came through. But yes, disappointment for Bangladesh, because if they'd won 2 out of 2, boy, they would have been on a real roll.
Definitely. Jim, what was your take on the catches?
Well, I'm always skeptical about the replays when they're sort of foreshortened in 2 dimensions. You need 3 dimensions to be sure. But I think if there's any evidence that the fingers are under the ball, even if at some point after the ball's been taken or thereabouts, he does hit the ground. If there's an evidence of control over being caught, it should be out. But I didn't see them, so I won't comment anymore because we get into so many controversies. It's good to see that umpires' decisions can still be controversial because a lot of people thought when DRS came in, adjudication was going to be perfect.
There is no such thing. But isn't cricket all the more delightful for it because it always gives us talking points? Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. So my thanks to Jim Maxwell and to Prakash Wakankar for joining us as well, and to all of you, of course, for listening, and we'll see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.